Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever looked at traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, and just felt like it's a completely different language? Trust me, you're not alone. The confusion usually happens because, well, we're trying to read a dynamic, living system using the entirely wrong set of rules. Today, we're cracking the source material to reveal the hidden thought code behind TCM. And I'll tell you right now, it's not magic. It's a highly structured, repeatable system of logic known as the logic of Yi. Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. A different kind of logic. 2. The 3 core principles. 3. The architecture of life. 4. Thinking like a doctor. 5. 5 coordinate systems. And finally, 6. Complementary, not competing. Let's dive right in. Kicking things off with Section 1, a different kind of logic, and how we can escape the trap of Western formal logic. We actually judge TCM using the wrong yardstick all the time. We expect strict mathematical equations, when really we should be looking for dynamic patterns. It's kind of like trying to measure the flow of a rushing river with a static wooden ruler. There's a massive dimension mismatch between our two dominant ways of thinking. Think about it. Formal logic, the stuff championed by Aristotle, is a proving logic. It assumes things are static, fixed entities and asks, is this right or wrong? It's the bedrock of modern science. But the logic of Yi, that is a decision logic. It doesn't care what a static object is, it asks, where is this dynamic system going? One isolates a moment in time to prove a fact, while the other tracks continuous change to make a real-time decision. Moving to Section 2, the 3 core principles, which make up the actual operating system of TCM. So, how does this logic actually work? It builds on a 3-part engine derived from the ancient Book of Changes. And this isn't just a list of philosophical words, it's a repeatable cognitive process. Step 1 is biang yi, or change. You don't ask, what is this exact disease? You ask, where is the body's balance shifting? You identify the direction of movement. Step 2 is bu yi, or constancy. Because you literally can't treat pure chaos, you have to find the constant, unchanging rule that's governing all that movement. And then step 3, jian yi, or simplicity. You take that massive, complex, moving system and reduce it down to a simple, operable model. Change, constancy, simplicity. That's the mental loop. All right, on to Section 3, the architecture of life, mapping the logic to the human body. Now, the absolutely crucial question is how those 3 abstract principles map onto the physical body. If you've ever dipped your toes into TCM, you know there are thousands of theories and schools of thought. It gets overwhelming fast. But the source text reveals a profound secret. Despite all that complexity, there's ultimately only one underlying substance, qi, and one simple operational law, yin-yang. That's it. Everything else is just a variation of those 2 things. The mapping between the philosophical logic and the medical foundations is a perfect one-to-one match. Bu yi, that constant rule, is qi. No matter what illness you're dealing with, qi is the fundamental, unchanging substance of life. Jin yi, the simplicity, is yin-yang. Think of it as the ultimate binary code used to adjust that qi. And biang yi, the change, represents all those thousands of clinical manifestations and theories. So whenever a doctor looks at a patient, they are seeing the many branches of change, but they are treating the one constant substance using the one simple law. Which leads perfectly into Section 4, thinking like a doctor and the dynamic clinical loop. To really understand the doctor's mindset, we have to look at how they view you, the patient. Instead of dissecting the body like a mechanic looking for a broken physical part, a TCM doctor reads the body as a dynamic projection of nature's forces. The body isn't a static machine. It's literally a living screen displaying the invisible movements of qi and yin-yang. To read that projection, the doctor runs a continuous 3-step loop: xiang, shu, and li. First, xiang. They gather external signs, maybe by checking your pulse or looking at your tongue, to catch a glimpse of what's going on inside. Next is shu. They compress and code those scattered symptoms into a usable data structure. It's like taking a bunch of raw code and converting it into a readable file format. Finally, li. They form a clinical judgment and create a treatment plan based on that exact data. But here is the kicker. This clinical loop, it never stops. The diagnosis is constantly self-correcting to match your changing reality. Because the logic of Yi is built entirely on change, a doctor knows for a fact that the medicine they give you today is going to fundamentally alter your body by tomorrow. So yesterday's diagnosis? Totally outdated. They have to continuously gather new symptoms, code new data, and form a brand new plan. It's a living, breathing tracking system. Let's look at Section 5, 5 coordinate systems, or the languages of traditional Chinese medicine.
With so many medical theories available, organs, meridians, the flow of time, how does a doctor actually know which one to pick? Well, these aren't competing theories fighting to be the right one. They are 5 distinct coordinate systems. Think of them as different languages or lenses, each giving a unique way to observe the exact same underlying qi. You can look through the lens of time, watching how symptoms shift from morning to night. You can look at space, seeing if the illness is deep inside or just on the surface. You can look at structure, tracing the meridians. You can use abstract philosophy, like the 5 elements, and you always use outer appearance to validate your work.
And that brings us to the absolute golden rule of the clinic. Do not mix your metaphors. If you diagnose a patient using the time language, you must treat them using the time language. If you diagnose an illness as an imbalance of space, like an illness trapped on the exterior, you have to treat it with a space solution, like inducing a sweat to push it out. You can't diagnose in space and then prescribe a treatment based on internal organs. The whole logic chain just breaks. You have to stay within the same coordinate system. Finally, Section 6, complementary, not competing, the complete mental toolkit. Now, as we zoom out, you might be wondering, is this constantly shifting system fundamentally at odds with the strict proving logic of Western science? Actually, no. They are beautifully complementary. The source text gives us this brilliant metaphor, calculus. Calculus needs differentiation to freeze a specific moment in time, which is exactly what formal logic does. But it also requires integration to calculate the accumulation of flow and change over time, which is exactly what the logic of Yi does. If you only have differentiation, you get snapshots but no movement. Only integration, you get flow but no precise measurements. We need both to see the full picture of reality. These logic systems aren't enemies fighting for dominance. They're just different tools in our mental toolkit. Formal logic is your go-to for strict scientific proof. Dialectical logic is fantastic for understanding historical trends and contradictions. But the logic of Yi? It is the absolute best tool for navigating complex, living, breathing systems where information is incomplete and always shifting, whether that's a human body, a shifting ecosystem, or even a business strategy. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. When we struggle to understand complex, living systems, it is almost always because we're using the wrong tool for the job. The logic of Yi teaches us to find the constant laws hiding inside continuous change, and to use simple models to make real-time decisions. So the next time you face a highly complex, ever-shifting situation in your own life, ask yourself, are you going to use a static logic to try and prove a point, or will you use a dynamic logic to successfully navigate the flow?